This is a movie review for Animals, released in 2019 and first appeared at the Sundance Films Festival to considerably good praise. It's directed by Australian director Sophie Hind, and the screenplay is written by Emma Jane Unsworth. And a quick point about her in relation to this review is that she won the British Independent Film Award debut screenwriter for 2019. Also at that award ceremony, the nomination for Best Actress for Holliday Grainger, who plays Laura. And it's directed, as I say, by Sophie Hind. Other cast that need to be referred to: Alia Shawkat plays Tyler. Tyler and Laura are the main characters. They're women who are approaching that historical age of 30, still both single and still intent on having a good time. Other notables in the cast: Jim is played by Fra Fear. Marty is played by Dermot Murray. And we have a few other members of the cast that I may refer to as we proceed. So basically, the movie is set in Dublin. Tyler is a barrister, but is very much into the idea of being a writer, although she's not very disciplined, but she has aspirations, dreams of becoming a writer. Tyler, she doesn't appear to work. She has sufficient funds to continue her extraordinary ability to spend most of her life having fun, and the girls resort early on. We get a picture of what their lifestyle encompasses: this free-spirited desire to go out to parties, to go pubbing, to go to the occasional music gig, and in that they get extremely drunk. They also use soft drugs, cannabis, and occasionally cocaine, and they are also quite willing to indulge in sexual horseplay as well. And so these girls are very much hanging on to their adolescent youth, and their friendship is sufficiently strong, and their shared joys at binging is significantly apparent, that they are basically joined at the hip almost. And the movie focuses on their relationship. They have a sort of relationship that's very accommodating to their individual idiosyncrasies, and it is a very strong bond. And they, at this stage, have resisted the temptation for a more conservative lifestyle, possibly under the umbrella of marriage. And it's at this point that we meet the girls, that the movie shifts when young Laura comes across Jim in a bar, and it becomes apparent that they are quite fond and attracted to each other. And this then detours Laura into a relationship with Jim, who's a much more relaxed, quieter sort of guy. He is a creative individual. He is a pianist, and he goes to recitals and offers his creativity in that direction. But he he admits early on that he needs to get a lot of sleep, he needs to practice, and this is in contrast to Laura's more freewheeling style of life, and it's interesting seeing how she tries to adapt to this quieter style as the movie progresses. It's Laura's story that tends to dominate the movie, and the issue with regard to can she separate a distance from this close friendship with Tyler to move on to the relationship with Jim, and this becomes a situation that has implications. Tyler starts to develop a sort of jealousy to an extent, but it isn't blatant, and she doesn't undermine and show emotional frailty. She's more akin to pointing out the options available to Laura, and I found this part of the film particularly impressive. The notion that although these characters were wayward and extreme on occasions, the film does not become judgmental about this, and the relationships that are clearly more free-spirited are not checked, but that doesn't actually undermine the value of them, and we can witness the activities within the film without seeing a bias or an emotional leaning towards being judgmental. They've been friends for 10 years, and we slowly get a picture of how close they have become. They almost have a shorthand type of language that they communicate, and it's an interesting look at how friendship can become so vitally important that it sort of checks us from moving on to more traditional relationships. We see them jointly going to friends' houses, to sort of family as such, but they have a sort of uniqueness as a couple that at times riles the people that they are visiting. There's one particular scene where a friend has recently had a baby, and they are invited along to a sort of a family event, and they arrive quite sozzled, and although Laura is more keen to give attention to the baby than Tyler, because she's somewhat inebriated, she decides that she's going to hold the child at the same time as holding a glass of wine, and inadvertently there's an accident where the wine is spilt over the baby, and the parents get completely over the top about this, and this prompts Laura and Tyler to leave there in a sort of giggling mess. But it highlights exactly where they're at, and that they are not really ready for marriage and for having children. With regard to my movie reviews, I do like to explore a number of scenes that have had an impact on me, and I think it also helps you, the listener, to make some sort of a view as to whether you're going to move forward and watch the movie. And although these are not plot spoilers as such, they give a sort of insight as to the sort of material that's being offered for the viewer. Firstly then, right at the start of the movie, after we witnessed the two girls on a sort of alcohol binge, we move to the apartment that they share, and Laura is found by Tyra tied up with her arms and legs tied to the bedposts early in the morning. She's obviously got a hangover, and Tyler's response is that this sort of scenario is only apparent after some kinky sex or an orgasm, an exorcism, and this immediately gives one the feeling that this is going to be quite a fun ride watching this movie, that comedy is certainly going to be a part of it. And we then move on to another scene, which is at a wedding that they both go to, and again they're fairly inebriated, as they are most of the time throughout the film. And in here we first capture the fact that Tyler is getting more and more irritated at losing her friend to this man, Jim, the pianist, and she embarks on a rather confrontational with Laura about her intentions. Does she want to marry him, or is it all a farce? And Tyler then lambasts her on the value of being a feminist and not relying on males to meet emotional needs. And again, this gives a taste of what sort of characters we are witnessing. There's also quite a number of sexually provocative scenes. Not long after Jim and Laura's friendship develops into a physical relationship, there's an extremely erotic scene where they're making love in the street in the middle of winter under winter coats, which is quite an interesting sort of way of portraying sexual eroticism in movies. And then there's another incident later on where they go to a poet room reading, and Tyler starts to become friendly with one of the poets in there, and later she goes back to his flat and Tyler goes home, and we find that the man is attracted to Laura considerably, and he is a bit of an exhibitionist, and we witness him starting to masturbate himself in an attempt to become attracted to Laura and for her to reciprocate. And she initially starts to go down that road and then becomes completely without any lustful feelings and leaves very quickly. And this tends to symbolise how, although she is a free spirit, there are certain lines that she will draw the line at. She will not cross. So this, to an extent, rescues her character. We then see the inevitable conflict between Laura's relationship with Tyler and Laura's new relationship with Jim, and what then follows is that the relationship with Jim shatters following becoming aware that Jim has shown some interest in another woman whilst away in connection with his pianist duties, and this shatters Laura, who had won the internal battle towards wanting to move towards marriage with this man, and to an extent at the expense of Tyler's friendship, which has taken a battering. But in conclusion, I found the movie, the dialogue is very spiky and very interesting. It keeps you linked into the movie. You never get bored. The characters are, although free-spirited, they're not cliched at all. And they, as I said, have this shorthand language. And the movie screenplay is non-judgmental. And although Tyler is a more comedic and, of course, has these women's lib views, it's not thrust at the audience. Laura is a more complex character. Her facial characteristics are always challenging to the viewer. She's able to get excited, aroused, and intimidates others as well. And she at times shows her vulnerability and lacks self-belief, particularly with regard to this project of developing her writing skills that constantly has writer's cramp. And so, all in all, I found the movie a very enjoyable watch. The characters certainly are lifelike. They are real. The people surrounding them are also very realistic. And it's a very good movie that I would suggest that you get to watch.